I'm Dr. Sarah Mitchell of Helping Babies Sleep. I'm a chiropractor by training, but found my passion empowering parents to teach their little ones to sleep and parent confidently day and night. And have you ever wondered, where should your baby sleep? Should they be in your room? Should they be moving out? What about toddlers? What about siblings? When can they room share? In this video, we're going to talk about all of those items. And if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to hit subscribe. All right, so we're going to cover newborns, babies 4 to 24 months, and toddlers 2 to 4 years in this. And when we're talking about newborns, we're talking about kiddos who are generally less than 3 months of age. And where should they sleep? If you're a first-time mom, it can be, such a huge learning curve to know where they should be sleeping. And in general, what you'll find is that you'll want them close to you. Newborns have weak sleep regulation systems, so the research shows that they will sleep in 3 to 4 hour stretches of sleep around the clock, essentially. And so there is more feeding in this early stages, and so you probably will want them close to you. Now, I refer to the American Academy of Pediatrics Safe Sleep Guidelines. These guidelines were implemented about a decade ago to help reduce the incidence of SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. And we always put kids down on their back and that they should be sleeping in a very firm, flat surface. So what qualifies there are things like the snoo, a crib, a bassinet, a pack and play. Okay, things that are not approved for safe sleep include dock-a-tots, sleeping on people, swings. Okay, keep in mind that these guidelines were essentially put in place to protect our most vulnerable children, our tiniest babies, and our really least educated parents. Okay, so they're to help with infant death syndrome, essentially. So what is a good place to have your baby? Like, should she be in your room? So the AAP would also like you to room share, but not necessarily bed share. That's a whole other topic. We could talk about it forever on another day. But they would like you to share a room ideally until 6 months. And if you could, 12 months. Now, as an experienced mom, I can tell you that's actually a really, really long time. And a lot of people move their kiddos out of their room earlier than that for a variety of reasons. Kids often are noisy sleepers. They grunt, they're congested, they snort. And as a new mom, you'll have hormones raging and you will hear every little thing. And it really does disrupt your sleep as well, which is also important because you're a primary caregiver. There's no written rule about when you should be moving your little one out. It's really up to you. Everyone has a different story. With my first, I wanted to actually co-sleep in bed share with him, but it just didn't work out for us. If you follow my story, you know that one night I heard him crying and I looked for him in the sheets beside me where I'd put him, but I couldn't find him. Luckily, he was safely stowed in the bassinet. I had put him there on the last feed, but I was so tired that I had forgotten about that. That was a time I knew that the way we were doing things for our family just couldn't go on like that. We kept him in the bassinet from there on in and started working on gentle sleep shaping, which you can do in the newborn stage between 4 and 8 weeks. Sleep is a learned habit. We think it should be this beautiful, natural, instinctual thing, and absolutely, there is a drive to sleep that is definitely biological. But the way we sleep is a learned habit, and what people don't know is that between 4 and 8 weeks, you're kind of gently imprinting what sleep looks like. Right? After that, when we say sleep training, we should actually be saying sleep reteaching because we've inadvertently taught them what sleep looked like in those earlier stages. Okay? So sleeping in a bassinet, if you're thinking about your long game, you've got a newborn, you want to be working on helping them get into the bassinet because ultimately you'll want them sleeping in the bassinet or the crib long term. So in the 4 to 8 week period, one simple thing that you can do is start working on getting them to sleep, getting them used to a crib or a bassinet. Often the first morning nap of the day is the easiest, and then naps do tend to get harder as the day goes on. All right. With Violet, who was my second, I was much more confident. I had her in her own crib by about 6 weeks of age because I just knew I was a very light sleeper at this point, and I heard every little toot, grunt, fart that she made. With my son, we did things more gradually. He was in a bassinet. And when I realized it was time to, start distancing ourselves because I was jumping up at every little noise, half the time he probably wasn't even awake, I started moving him about a foot away from me every night. And we had a very small house. So by night 5, he was kind of out in the hallway, believe it or not. I wouldn't suggest that, by the way. And then I finally got that bassinet into the nursery and transitioned him to the crib afterwards. But everyone has a different story. You got to do what you feel is comfortable for you. Another question I get is, when should I be moving them out of the bassinet? So for a lot of kids, it depends on size. But in general, most kids start to outgrow it around 5 months of age. There's definitely kids that are earlier, and there's definitely kids that are a little bit later. For example, if you're using the snoo, right? I think it says that you can, use it up to 6 months. Here's the thing. If your kiddo needs to work on independent sleep skills, so they need to learn how to be able to, be put down completely awake, not drowsy, and relax themselves into sleep, you need to develop self-soothing skills for them. They are going to need their hands free, so they will need to be out of the swaddle, and then they will need to be able to move their bodies around so that they can position themselves comfortably, which means they need space, and the bassinet will be too small for them. So a lot of parents work on sleep teaching around like 4 or 5 months. That would be the time then to move them out of that bassinet. If you're still having your little one swaddled and everything's going well for you and you want to keep using the bassinet, by all means, you can do that as long as it's working for you. Okay. Can your kiddo sleep in your own room? Sure, the AAP would love it if you did that. Until 12 months, ideally, they say. Right? A lot of us, that doesn't work out so well because, again, they're too noisy. Or for some kids to wake up and see their parents sleeping in the bed only a few feet away from them, that can drive them crazy. Okay, that's when a parental presence can actually be distracting rather than helpful. And I know that might sound totally crazy, but it's true. Okay? Sometimes parental presence can be more distracting than helpful. In fact, if you look at Dr. Jody Mindell, she's a pediatric sleep researcher, she has studies to show that the more parents intervene as part of the bedtime routine, the increased frequency of children's wake-ups occur. So the more you interact at bedtime, the greater chance your kid is going to wake up in the night. Okay, because they're reliant on you. They associate sleep to be with you. Remember, all humans wake up in the night. It's perfectly normal. But not all humans eat in the night. Not all humans require being rocked or having a pacifier reinserted to go back to sleep. And that's because sleep is a learned habit. All right, let's talk about toddlers. So toddlers do best in a crib until age 2.5. I remember being in IKEA with my 2-year-old daughter, and she climbed up on those little toddler beds, and she looked so adorable, and I remember thinking, maybe I should put her in her bed. And then I gave my head a shake because I remembered how many people I've worked with 2-year-olds in beds that have so many struggles, okay? Yes, these are generalizations based on hundreds of kids that I worked with over the years, but most kids do best in a crib until age 2.5. And that's because the younger kids are very impulsive. They don't know, they have no boundaries. So if you put them in a bed, they will be like a little jack in the box all night long. And what tends to happen then is a parent will lie beside the child to keep them in bed, right? But now they develop the sleep association that I need a parent to lie with me to fall asleep. And so when they wake up in the night, which all humans do, they call for that parent to come back and lie beside them. There's preference for sure, but there's also a learned habit going on there, okay? After age 2.5, that's when you can generally talk to your child a little bit more, reason with them, motivate them to want to stay in bed. So they can stay in the crib as long as you want. Often I see parents make the move out of the crib for one of 3 reasons. 1, they are expecting another baby and they want the crib for that person. Spare yourself and buy an extra crib for $200 from Target. Okay, it's absolutely worth it. The second reason is potty training. So they want their child to have access to go potty. And that's where you have to decide what's the priority for you. Great sleep or potty training. I personally chose great sleep, kept my little one in a pull-up until age 3. And then the third reason is legit. It's climbing out of the crib. And how can you work on that? Well, depending on your crib, some cribs can you lower the mattress as far as you can, or you put your little one in a sleep sack, so that prevents them from throwing their leg over the side of things. Okay? Most kids can't climb out until 2.5-ish. Of course, there's always outliers, and those kids will require, more intervention and will be more challenging in general to keep them sleeping well at night. All right, what about room sharing? Can your siblings, your children share a room? So I've had kids, here in the Bay Area, we have some very small living spaces. I've had kids room share as early as 1 year for the younger one, okay? What's important is that you get both kids sleeping well independently before you combine them, okay? And I often move the more flexible sleeper. So if I have limited space and I'm trying to work on a 13-month-old getting used to sleeping with her brother in a crib, I might use that crib in the room, but move the older brother for a few nights, have a camp out in the parents' room while I get that child used to sleeping well there, and then reintroduce him, okay? If you want to be really safe, really, 2.5 years for your youngest is often the best time to combine them. He's in a bed at that point. He's been sleeping well. After, up to 2.5 years, it's sad to say, but there is a lot of different sleep progressions associated with growth that will go on. But after 2.5, it's much more clear sailing. So that would be kind of the ideal time if you were going to need to combine kiddos. One thing parents don't realize is even if you have kids sharing a room, they will do best if they have their own separate bedtimes. Bedtime is all about having one-on-one cuddles and attention from the parent to fill up that bucket and then relax and down into sleep. Often when you have two kiddos, there's competing needs there, competing for attention. It can be exciting. It's not the calm, serene, winding down time that we would like to have. Okay, and for most kids, you will have separate bedtimes anyway, just based on their awake times and where they're at for quite a while. Okay. Personality also does play a big role. I've had twins that we've actually separated because they just ended up keeping each other awake. So it's really about figuring out what works best for your family. And sometimes you don't even know until you try it, right? So you try it, see how it goes. You can always make changes later. Okay, so that's a summary of where should your baby sleep, right? Kind of depends on your baby's age, your baby's temperament, your housing situation, to some extent your parenting needs, and then personality. Are you helpful or are you hindering? Are you distracting at all by being in the room with them? In which case, they might need to be in their own room. If you're having more sleep questions, you can always take my simple 6-question sleep quiz for babies 0 to 2. We'll ask you a couple things about your child's age, how you're falling asleep currently, and one simple thing that you can do tonight to implement. If you have a toddler 2 to 4, you can download our Toddlers Sleep Terrorist document that will help you with timing of sleep to make sure that you're setting you and your toddler up for success. Because often if we put toddlers down too early, this stalling just keeps going. If you want to work on your own independent sleep skills from age 0 to 24 months, don't forget you can always buy my best-selling book on Amazon, The Helping Babies Sleep Method, The Art and Science of Teaching Your Little One to Sleep. You can also look into working with me one-on-one or in my group coaching program.